Some of the Freedom Riders were able to get away. 3 or 4 of them jumped over a 15-foot wall, which led into the federal building, and in the basement of the federal building was the post office. And Bernard and Alan Kaysen, Freddie Leonard, and others ran through that post office, and they said that people who were working with the mail never looked up. They just kept doing their thing with the mail. They were able to get away. 2 of our white females were badly beaten. It's the same young lady that Siegenthaler talks about, the one he tried to get into the car. We were so well trained that she told him, "Mister, I'm used to this. I'm ready for this. I am nonviolent." Of course, you know what he said to her, "Sister, get your in the car." And he was hit across the head and laid in the gutter there for over an hour, bleeding. Those 2 white females walked away from all the beatings that was going on that day. And the first person they went to for protection was the police. And the policeman told them, said, "If you were black, you'd be dead. But since you're white, get away from here. Go somewhere." And there were some of the black families saw these girls and took them into their home for safety. One of the black students, a female, saw a cab driver, and she wanted to get a cab to get away. And the driver said, "I'm sorry, but I can't take you." She said, "Well, move over, I'll do the driving. We just need to get away from this mob." Jim Swerve was injured. John Lewis was injured. Our lookout person, William Barbee, I don't think you'll even ever hear anything about William Barbee. He was our lookout person in Montgomery. Just in the crowd, 2 white hoodlums pulled him into where all the fighting was, put their feet on his head, and took a steel rod and tried to run it through his ear. He never got over that. Years later, we would see him walking up and down Jefferson Street as if he were in a trance. One day, he just stepped out in front of a bus. We don't know if he committed suicide or he just didn't know where he was, and he was hit by a bus and killed. They are placing a monument for him at American Baptist Theological Seminary to dedicate to him and his family. I was in the 3rd group. James Bevel was the captain of the 3rd group. We drove from Nashville, Tennessee down to Montgomery on Highway 31, a 2-lane highway. We didn't have 65 at that time. May 23rd, 1961. In that meeting was when we met with Dr. King, and some people wanted him to go on the Freedom Rides. Others said, "We don't want you to go, we want you to stay so that you can raise funds in the event we need to bail out." Dr. King couldn't go on that Freedom Ride even if he wanted to. He was already out of jail on bail. He would have forfeited his bail. There's no telling how long he would have stayed in jail if he went on that Freedom Ride. We learned a lot on the Freedom Rides. We were arrested in Jackson, Mississippi, booked and fingerprinted in the city jail. We filled that jail. There were 27 of us. We filled the jail. More riders from Tennessee State came in. They had to move us to the county jail. And now we're trying to fill the county jail. I must say to you that Nashville had more Freedom Riders than any city in the United States. Tennessee State had more Freedom Riders than any single school in the United States. You see a lot about Fisk University in the documentary. I think Fisk had 5 Freedom Riders. And the reason you see Fisk on the documentary is because it was a private school. The cameramen and the reporters could go to Fisk. They could not get on the state school's property to do filming and reporting. To this day, there is nothing on the Tennessee State University campus that will even suggest sit-in or Freedom Rides. As you years ago, 14 of us were expelled from school for participating in the Freedom Rides. And in 2008, we were given an honorary doctorate degree. The Board of Regents, when this was first brought to them, they voted it down. And I saw the president of TSU the day after it was voted down, and you could almost say he was sick, because he said, I didn't think that they would vote it down. He said, I know people on that board, and I just knew that they would vote to give you an honorary doctorate degree. And I said, don't worry. Wait until Monday. Well, by Monday, the phones were ringing downtown at the Capitol, and of course, now that we have internet and all these other things, they were just blowing up at the Capitol building. Why didn't you give these kids their honorary doctorate degrees? So they had another meeting. And of course, as you know, we received our honorary doctorate degree. John Siegenthaler had a lot to do with that, because he had written some words, and he took those words with him, and he just showed them, and he said, you see this? I have friends in the communication, in the radio, and TV, and newspaper. You wouldn't want me to give this to them, so I think you should vote yes, and they did. So we received our honorary doctorate degrees. Of the 14, there are only 3 that are deceased. And in Nashville, there are 8 Freedom Riders who still live there, and we meet every week on Tuesdays to talk about making this a better world. Going back to the Oprah Winfrey show, the ladies were still asking me some questions about Freedom Rides. Why did you go? I had given her my first explanation as to why I went. So she asked me again, why did you go? I said, well, I was a part of the 3rd group, but that's not the only reason I went. I said, let's go to Isaiah, the 6th chapter, in the 8th verse. Then I heard a voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and whom will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. She said, I understand that. Were you afraid? I said, no. Why not? Through that whole ordeal, riding from Nashville to Montgomery, being on a bus from Montgomery to Jackson, and then being placed in 4 of their institutions: the city jail, the county jail, the county farm, and then on to the worst penitentiary in the world, Patton Penitentiary. Why were you not afraid? I simply said, for the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I read her the 23rd Psalm. And when you know and understand the 23rd Psalm, you have no reason to be afraid. We were like, I told her, I said, we were like caterpillars when we first started on this ride. And all through that ride, we were into a cocoon. And when it was all over, we came out like butterflies. To this day, there are students who don't remember a lot of things that happened in those jails. They don't remember what ride they were on. They just know that they were there. During our 50th anniversary in Chicago, I walked up to my cellmate in Parchman, and I said, your name is Jan Triggs? He said, yes. You're from New York? I said, yes. I said, you were my cellmate in Parchman. I don't remember you. I said, that's all right. I do understand. I thought that before the anniversary with Oprah and what have you, I said to myself, I would sure love to be on the stage with Oprah, but if not, at least sit on the front row, because she might ask you a question, might get to you on the front row. Well, I sat on the front row, but I didn't know until the day of this film, the day that we shot it, that I would be a part of that show. They gave us an envelope at the church, at the hotel, and on my envelope it said number 5. That meant that I thought it meant that I was to get on bus number 5 to go from the hotel to the studio. So I got my luggage together and I found bus number 5. I get on the bus and I'm sitting there waiting, and a young man came on the bus and he's checking all the names to make sure you're where you're supposed to be. And he gets to me and I give him my name. He says, "You're not on this list." And I go in my pocket and I pull out my little envelope. I said, "But it says number 5. He said, "You see that limousine back there? That's number 5 limousine. Get your luggage off this bus and go back to number 5. So I kind of creeped off the bus because I felt ashamed, and I didn't want everybody else to know that I was going to be in a limousine and they were on the bus. So I get in the limousine and I'm waiting for 2 other ladies that were going to be on the show. So we depart from the hotel and we go to the show, and we had a special door that we went through, security, and we went into the green room, and I must say, the green room was a lot of fun. I was the only male, and there were 2 other ladies that were a part of the show in the green room. One lady didn't like lipstick because she didn't wear lipstick, and they kept telling her, "Don't lick your lips, don't lick your lips." Another one wore Tams all the time, and she had this red Tam on, a big red Tam, and she said, "Can I wear this Tam?" And they said, "No, we haven't had anybody to wear a hat on the show, so you'll have to go without the hat. But I have to have my Tam on." "You can't wear the Tam. We're going to fix your hair. Our hairstylist will be in and we'll fix your hair and you'll look marvelous." So she asked another lady, "Would you go out and ask somebody if I can wear my Tam?" She was determined to wear that Tam. And of course, I think the lady just closed the door and stood out there for a couple of seconds and came back and said, "We were told that you cannot wear your Tam." So she said, "Well, if I can't wear this one," she went in her purse and got a small pink one. "Can I put this one on?" She was determined to wear a Tam, but they fixed her up and she was looking lovely. One of the things that happened on the show, you've seen it in the documentary, was that we would sing a lot, in jail and out of jail. Singing was a way of communication because we were segregated in the jail system. And late in the evenings, when we were in the county jail, it was built like the letter O. There was a courtyard in the center. And so late in the evening, when the traffic had died down and things were quiet, perhaps maybe the black singers would start singing. And the white males and the white females and the black females could hear us. What we were simply saying is, "We're okay up here. We don't know where you are, but we figure you can hear us. But we're okay." We would stop singing, and maybe the white males would start singing. And the songs that they would sing would suggest to us that they were okay, and we would make the rounds. And when we got to Parchment, we did the same thing, although there was a thick wall between us. And we would sing to the walls because we knew that somebody was on the other side of that wall. One of the songs that we would sing, and I want you to join me, long before we reached Parchment, when we were first arrested in Jackson, Mississippi, we tried to tell the authorities that we were not the only ones coming to Jackson, Mississippi. So we would start singing, "Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming, oh yes. Buses are coming,